Good morning, this is lesson 4. So we are still dealing with the same unit, astronomy, but this time it will be about grammar. I'd like to start by asking you a question. Does it happen to you to ask questions about the outer space? Are you curious about the outer space? Do you imagine the things that exist there, the colors that exist there, the different planets and the heavenly bodies? Of course, this happens to us all. And this is the case of our two friends here, Jill and Brian, who are holding a conversation about the possibility of having life in other planets. Let's read the conversation. Jill, do you think life is possible on other planets? Brian, no, I don't think it's possible. There's no atmosphere out there. Jill, so if there were atmosphere out there, the extraterrestrial life would probably be possible. Brian, yes, probably. Now, I'd like you to pay attention to the words that I have written in different colors here so that you can guess what the lesson is gonna be about. Okay? Did you guess? Of course, it is conditional type 2. So pay attention to the sentence that Jill said in the conversation. If there were atmosphere out there, the extraterrestrial life would probably be possible. By atmosphere, we mean, of course, the gases that surround the planet Earth and that make it possible for the Earth to support life. Okay, so as the name indicated, conditional sentences, it means that they express condition. Now, what's the word that permits us to express condition in the sentence? Of course, it is if. Okay, you can also notice that there is a first verb, were, and the second verb would be. Let's take a closer look to the form of the conditional type 2. Consider the same sentence. As you can see, the sentence contains two parts, or let's say two clauses. The first clause, that is in blue, is the one that expresses condition, since it starts with if. Then you have a comma that is followed by the sentence or the part or the clause, the extraterrestrial life would be possible. Okay? What happens if there were atmosphere out there? It is the result. The extraterrestrial life would be possible. So if I come to write a sentence in the conditional type 2, I should write the sentence with the if plus the condition plus a comma, that is essential, and followed by the result. Now this type that contains if and the condition is called the if clause. Okay, and the part that expresses the result is called the main clause or the result clause. Of course, our sentence here can be written in a different way, starting by the result, then if, then the condition. And in this case, we don't need to put a comma. So you put a comma only if you start with the if clause. Okay? Let's have a closer look to the tenses now that are used in conditional type 2. So I have separated my sentence, the two clauses, in two different columns. If there were atmosphere out there, as we said, is the if clause, or we call it subordinate clause. It expresses condition. Now pay attention to the verb that is written in this clause. The second clause, which is the main clause, expresses the result. Now what tense also is expressed in this clause? So you complete the table with the tense that is used in each clause. Okay, think of it a moment. Let's correct. So the verb were here is the past simple of to be. Okay, And would be, did you guess the tense? It's the conditional present. Okay, would, that is a modal that is followed by the base form of the verb to be by a stem. So this tense, conditional present, is written with would or could or might plus stem. Right. Let's sum up what we said a moment ago. So a conditional sentence in type 2 should be written in this way. If plus condition, that should be in the past simple, you put your comma, plus a result that should be in the conditional present. Of course, as I said, you can start with the result and then the if clause, all right, respecting the tenses, of course. There is a special case in verbs in conditional type 2, and the special case here is the verb to be. Look at the following sentence. If I were you, I would become an astronaut. Here is the astronaut. So, as we said, were is in the past simple of to be. Now compare it with the second sentence. I was in London when I studied astronomy. Again, the verb is in the past simple. Now compare the two sentences. It's the same subject, I, but in the first one we used were, but in the second one we said was. Even though it's the same tense, but the form of this verb is different. Why? Simply because in the first one there is if. This is what we call the subjunctive mood. Whereas in the second one, the past simple is the normal past simple we use. It is the indicative mood. So to make it clear for you, let's have a quick revision of the two moods. Okay, the indicative mood. So to be in the indicative mood is conjugated in this way. Say, I was, you were, she was, he was, it was, we were, you were, and they were. Alright, this is how we conjugate the verb to be in the past when it is in the indicative mood. Now, in the subjunctive mood, look at the difference. We put were for all the persons, as you can see, and I have put in red, okay, those that are different from the indicative mood. So, in the subjunctive mood, you say I were and not I was. So you say she or he, it were and not was. Okay, so in the conditional type 2, we use the subjunctive mood and not the indicative mood. That's why we put were for all the persons. So the structure, if I were you, that is the conditional type 2, is a very useful structure for giving advice to somebody. So when I say, if I were you, I would become an astronomer, I simply mean you should become an astronomer, you ought to become an astronomer, I advise you to become an astronomer. I'm expressing advice. So keep in mind that conditional type 2 is also used to express advice, especially when we use the structure if I were you. Now, we have finished talking about the form. Let's talk a bit about the use of the conditional type 2. Let's come back to the previous sentence. If there were atmosphere out there, the extraterrestrial life would probably be possible. Right. Now, as we said, the tense here is past simple. Now, does it mean that the action is past? Does it mean that this is something that happened in the past? Okay, of course no. Now, when I say if there were atmosphere out there, does it mean that there is atmosphere or there isn't? Well, in reality, there is no atmosphere out there. So when I say if there were atmosphere, I'm just imagining the opposite of this reality. Okay? And as you can see, my sentence is negative. And my imagination here is positive. Why? Because I'm imagining something that is different, something that opposes what is real. Okay? So now I think you should be able to answer this question. What is expressed in the previous example? Is it A, a real or possible situation? Is it an unreal situation or hypothesis, which means supposition? Or is it an impossible past situation? Did you get the answer? Of course it is an unreal situation or a supposition. As I said, it is just an imaginary situation. Okay? So since it is a supposition, it means that it's possible to replace if by the verb suppose. So instead of saying, if you were out in space, you would see the Earth as a tiny ball. I can say also, suppose you were in space, you would see the Earth as a tiny ball. To make it clear, let's have a quick revision or a quick comparison between conditional type 2 and conditional type 1. Look at the first sentence. If I became a great astronomer, I would discover the mysteries of the outer space. Okay, you should agree with me that this is type 2. As you can see, we have used became as a past simple in the condition and would discover as the present conditional present in the result. Okay, compare it with the next sentence that is in type 1. It says, if I become a great astronomer, I will discover the mysteries of the outer space. So instead of the past simple, we have used the present in the condition. And instead of the conditional present, we have used the future simple in the result. Okay? Now, is the form the only difference? Is the tense the only difference? Or is there any other difference? Of course there is. It is what we talked about a moment ago. It is the use. So type 2, as we said, is used to express an imaginary situation. It is a supposition. It means this sentence might be said, for example, by someone who is dreaming about the future, a young person who is imagining the future. Okay, so this situation for this person, this girl who is dreaming, is very far. Okay, it is something that is impossible, at least for the moment. All right, but type 1 is used to express a more real situation. Okay, so this sentence, for example, must be said by someone who is already working in the domain of astronomy. So the possibility of becoming a great astronomer is more real. That's the difference. Okay, now it's true that type 1 and type 2 are different in form, they are different in tenses, but in reality the two situations express the same thing. They are both dreaming. Okay, they are both talking about something that can happen in the future, that might happen in the future. All right, so the form is different, but the meaning is not very different. Now, when I say, if I became an astronomer, I would discover the mysteries of the outer space, this tense we have used here, the past tense, is not really indicating a past time. It is indicating a distance from reality. So it is far, okay? It's not possible, so it's far from reality. It's not a past time. I really hope it's clear. So the lesson is finished. Now let's move to some practice. Task 1 is to give the correct verbs, to give the correct form of the verbs in brackets. Okay, so you have the verbs here that are in blue in brackets. You need to put them in the correct form according to the position of this verb. Is it in the condition or is it in the result? So are you going to use the past simple or the conditional present? All right, put the correct form. Let's correct. The first sentence. If the Earth stopped orbiting the Sun, the northern hemisphere would keep getting hotter and hotter, while the southern hemisphere would be colder and colder. As you can see, the first verb is in the past simple because it comes after if, it is in the condition, and you've got a comma in the middle, as you see, and would keep, you've got two verbs, would keep and would be, that are in the conditional present because they are in the result. Sentence 2. If the Earth ceased or stopped rotating about its axis but continued revolving around the Sun, you see you've got two verbs in the past simple. Why? Because the two verbs are part of the condition and the comma is here. The length of a year would remain the same, but a day would last as long as a year. Conditional present for the result. What would happen to us if a large asteroid smashed into the Earth? You see, the sentence here is inversed since it's a question, and if is in the middle. That's why it should be followed by the past simple, and would happen is put in the beginning. Okay, conditional present is put in the beginning of the question. If the sun stopped shining, you see, the condition stopped here, so my first verb is in the past simple, and all the other verbs are in the conditional present. Would need, would see, and would never know, would never see. So we would never know when one day became the next day. You see, we have a frequency adverb. Whenever you have a frequency adverb, of course, you have to put it between the auxiliary or the modal and the stem. And shouldn't say, for example, we never would know. No, say, we would never know, we would never see. This is all for the first activity. The next one is paraphrasing. It means you have to rewrite sentences in a different way. In this activity, you are going to rewrite all the sentences with if or suppose, since we are dealing with conditional type 2. Okay. Think of it a moment. Try to answer alone and let's correct. Sentence 1 says, I advise you to wear special glasses when you witness a solar eclipse to protect your eyes. So, what is expressed in our sentence here? Of course, it is advice. I advise you, right? So, here we need the structure, if I were you. If I were you, I would wear special glasses. Now, pay attention to all the changes that happened in this sentence. Why? Because we have changed the subject. It is no longer you, it is I. If I were you, I would wear. Okay? Special glasses when I witness a solar eclipse to protect my eyes. We can't sail through the galaxy since we don't have a spaceship. Okay, what is expressed in this sentence? It is cause. Since can be replaced by because or as. Okay? Now, this cause can be replaced by, can be expressed, in a conditional type 2 in this way. Suppose we had a spaceship, we could sail through the galaxy. Now, what are the changes that happened here when we expressed it in this way? From don't have, so have became had, we changed the tense since we need the past simple in conditional type 2. Not only we have changed the verb from the present into the past, but also we removed the negation. Why? As I said, because we are expressing something that is opposite of reality. Okay? The same thing for the first part. We can't sail became could sail. So not only we have changed can't into could, but also we removed the negation. Okay. Next sentence. You aren't in place aligned with the sun and the moon. That's why you can't see a total solar eclipse. So this sentence here expresses result or consequence with that's why. Okay, again, a sentence like this one can be expressed using the conditional type 2. So you can say you could see the total solar eclipse if you were in a place aligned with the sun and the moon. All right, again, can't see became could see. It should be positive. So all the verbs that are positive becomes negative, and all the verbs that are negative become positive, and those that are positive become negative. Okay. The last sentence. You'd better see this documentary to get more knowledge about space exploration. Again, this sentence expresses advice with had better, so we need the structure if I were you, I would see. Okay. Let's move to another kind of activities, that is dialogue completion. Now you complete the dialogue with suppositions using would, could, and might. Okay, try to use the different models, okay, to have different possibilities. Of course, you have many possibilities for answering this kind of dialogues, but let's read. Suppose Martians invaded the Earth, what would happen? Okay, now you have to say your supposition. What could they do if they were friendly? Interesting, but what if they were not friendly with us? Oh my God, I don't want to be eaten by Martians. Do you think people would fight them if it were necessary? Oh, thank God. It's all unreal. We are just imagining. Okay? Let's see the answer. Suppose Martians invaded the Earth, what would happen? If Martians invaded the Earth, the planet's resources would be exterminated. They would be finished. Okay? Past simple, conditional, present. Okay? Of course, you can see here would be exterminated simply because it is in the passive form. What could they do if they were friendly? I suppose they could help us face some terrestrial challenges. Interesting, but what if they were not friendly with us? In that case, I think they might use us as food. Oh my God, I don't want to be eaten by Martians. Do you think people would fight them if it were necessary? I suppose they would. It's possible here to use would alone without stem when you answer a kind of question like this, that is a yes-no question. Okay? The last activity is writing. Okay? The topic says, suppose you were the director of the first space agency in Algeria. We are just imagining, okay? What would you do? Write a short paragraph to be published in your school magazine in which you state your hypotheses and your suppositions about your plans in this agency. Of course, don't forget to use would, could, and might to express the result. These notes might help you, of course. Algerians visit the moon, improve astronomy, Algerian universities, offer chances, Algerian scientists, open research centers for space exploration, and build space stations. Okay, so you can start your paragraph in this way. If I were the director of a space agency, I would first take the Algerian students on a trip to the moon. That might be very exciting, don't you think? Right? So this is the end of our lesson. Thank you for watching.
شكرا على المشاهدة. لا تنسوا الاشتراك في القناة، الضغط على الجرس، الإعجاب بالفيديو.